The King's Assassin by McFarland and Hilton Duong. I don't remember much of my past, but I do remember this. I was 3 years old and I was in my sister's arms crying so hard I almost drowned us both. My parents had just been murdered in front of me. We were hiding in a closet and my sister was trying to shush me, but I just couldn't stop the sobbing. The door swung open, but my sister was so fast I could barely see what she was doing. The man fell to the floor with a thud, and his insides were now out. My sister pushed me out the door and into the woods and started pushing twigs together to make a makeshift house. A few years later, I was a master at hunting and cooking all types of game. I even knew every single plant in the forest and knew what it would do. My sister has been gone for over a week now with no trace of her, except the magical dagger she gave me. I finally decided to go looking for her when I heard a scream in the woods. I followed the scream until I found wolves feeding on what looked like a human body. Then, when I saw a tuft of reddish hair, I knew it was my sister. I thrust into battle. It was me against a whole pack of wolves. After I killed off most of them, the rest ran away. I ran to my sister's mangled body and sobbed once and then wiped the tears off my face and started to bury my sister when a man that was hidden in the shadows stepped out into the clearing. I raised my knives ready to attack when the mysterious man said, "I am very sorry for your loss, madam, but I have seen your skills and would like to offer you a job as the king's assassin." I was tired, bloody, and could hardly think clearly, but for some reason I answered yes, and from that point on, my life completely changed. I am now 15 and I am a very successful assassin. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but it pays really well and I get to live like a queen. I have been sent on 100 missions and there have been no survivors. I live with Knight Luke and he treats me like his own daughter. I was in my room reading To Kill an Animal, one of the most famous books in the kingdom, when someone knocked on my door. "Come in," I said. To tell you the truth, I never expected the King of Alpha to walk into my quarters unannounced. We have become friends, but he has never done this before. When he spoke not in his kingly voice, but his anodyne voice.
"Hello, Maya. I was wondering if I could speak to you in private."
"Of course, Your Highness," I replied. I marked my page and followed him out the door. We started to walk down the hallway of my house when he grabbed my arm and spun me around.
"I have an urgent mission for you to complete. You have done a wonderful job assassinating my foes, but I need you to do this for me just once. I know that you have retired, but I promise that this is the last mission."
"I don't know, William. I promised I would give up killing for you. I have to finish my studies." As soon as I met his eyes, I knew what his answer was going to be.
"I hate to do this. I really do. We have become good friends, but you leave me no choice. As King of Alpha, I command you to do what I say."
I stood straight up and said, "Yes, Your Majesty. What do you require?" The reason I have to say this is, well, I really have no choice. He sent me a potion, and whenever he says those words, I have to obey him.
"I need you to go hunt a wizard that has been giving the kingdom trouble lately, and I need you to get rid of him. He lives in the dark forest, and his name is Lance. Now, he will probably find you, so you need to fall into one of his traps and get kidnapped. Now, go gather your stuff and get ready for your hunt. Oh, and you have a horse and food supplies down in the barn. Good hunting."
The king left before the potion's effects wore off, and I had no choice but to obey. I said goodbye to Luke, and I rode off to the dark forest and to get trapped in the wizard's trap. I had been wandering around the forest for hours. I guess I could start thinking about all of the potion recipes that I've been learning how to brew, but still, why can't this stupid wizard trap me already so I can kill him and go home? Deep breaths, Maya. That's just the king's potion in you talking. Just be patient and try not to let it cloud your mind. Then, all of a sudden, spiders started to crawl out from every nick and cranny. Even the dirt turned black with all of the spiders. It made my horse afraid, so my horse started to buck up. I stayed on for about 15 seconds. Bull riders would have been jealous, but I still fell off into the spiders. They started to crawl all over me until I was completely covered, and then it smelled very strange. Then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was upside down, and my daggers were just out of my reach on the table below me. But luckily, I hid a dagger where no wizard would dare inspect my pocket. I reached in and pulled out my pocket knife. My hands were bound, but I cut right through them. When I tried the rope that I was hanging from, the knife caught fire and I let go. I cursed silently at the pain, but then I heard laughter. I looked around the room as best as I could with me hanging upside down once again, but I could make out a tall figure in the room. Then the figure walked forward and said,
Magic ropes. They burn anyone or anything that tries to cut or untie them, unless you know the spell.
"Let me go," I said in my best stern voice. I was getting dizzy because of all the blood flowing to my head.
I don't think that would be a wise choice on your part. You see, the birds brought me news that the king was sending his personal assassin to come and kill me. I assume he meant you. Anyway, the only way for you to get down is to drink this.
He must have read my expression because then he said,
No? Then I'll guess you will have to hang there until you die.
grabbed the cup out of his hands and tried to drink it upside down. I got most of it, but the remainder fell on my face and dripped onto the ground. It didn't taste half bad, but suddenly I was coughing and I couldn't stop until a green liquid poured out of my mouth. I didn't realize it, but I was already on the floor. Then I understood what the potion did to me. It got rid of the king's power over me. I was finally free. Loud chimes rang through the kingdom as the king's knights rode out to find his assassin and kill her. The king found out almost instantly when his connection with her mind broke. He knew that the wizard had somehow reversed the spell he had on her. They must kill her, or she will kill me. How? The wizard interrupted and said,
A simple potion of lion's hair, wolf claws, and dragon's breath in a bottle.
But I tried that, I muttered to myself.
You probably forgot the asparagus. The king probably took out all of the potion books in the kingdom so you couldn't free yourself.
Why did he really want me to kill you? I asked. Why? I pushed.
Because I knew how to free you.
How do you know he snuck a potion in me?
Enough with the questions. You're starting to give me a headache.
The wizard walked over to his cauldron and then said,
It's ready.
Then he motioned me to come to where he was. I looked over his shoulder and then I saw a clear image of about 10 men in shining armor headed toward the dark forest. They're coming for me because you broke my spell, I exclaimed. I need to get out of here. Thank you for breaking my spell. I headed toward my knives, but then I was frozen in place and was lifted off the ground. I went through the roof and out into the forest clearing to face 10 knights of the king and 1 wizard. This is the end, I said. Guess I will finally join my family. Then 11 lightning bolts hit the men, and every single one fell off his horse and started to smoke. Then I started plummeting to the ground. I hit my head and lost consciousness. When I woke, I had no idea where I was. All I could make out was that I was lying on a cotton cot and had a blanket over me. The rest was a big blur. Then I heard a familiar voice that said,
You took a pretty hard fall. You're lucky to be alive.
All I could do was moan.
My name is Lance, by the way, although you probably knew that.
There was a sharp poke in my arm, and then the wizard said,
I need a little bit of your blood to fully complete your healing potion.
Then I heard a hiss, and then liquid being poured into a container.
Drink this.
He said. I took the glass, and it smelled really nice, sort of like flowers. But when I drank it, it was the most foul thing I have ever consumed. Then the world slowly came into focus, and I saw Lance sitting on the foot of the cot. I said, I don't really think the king sent me to kill you because you were a threat. Lance looked at me and then sighed.
We were best friends in school. Yes, that means I'm royal. We had everything planned out for our future, but then a special visitor came. He was the greatest wizard of the land, and William wanted to be his apprentice. When the visitor said that he had no magical talent at all, he was very put out. He almost exploded when the wizard chose me, and he has sworn me as an enemy ever since.
That explains a lot, I answered.
I have a plan that I think will help stop sending you to kill his allies, and I would like you to help.
He said. Of course I will, I answered in a soft voice. Then we got to work. I got all the supplies he needed, and he made the magic potion. While we were waiting for the potion to brew, we drew a map of the castle and we planned out our attack. The horses were ready to ride, and we were ready to go. We gathered the potion and set off at midnight. Lance had taught me some spells that let you blend into the environment around you. Once we had reached the castle, we both cast the spell on one another, and then we tied the horses to a tree and entered the castle. We had to walk down endless hallways and climb never-ending stairs. And when we were in the king's dorm, we were both out of breath. I picked a lock. I have picked up some tricks from being an assassin, and we were in under 1 second. The king has one habit right when he goes to bed. He likes to set up all of the booby traps in his room. Luckily, I know how to disable and get past all 1,000. Once we were through, we went to his bedside and opened his mouth. I would have killed him for enslaving me, but Lance's only rule for me coming along was if I didn't kill the king. So, instead, I opened his mouth and let Lance pour the potion in. Then, we went back the way we came, only this time we stayed in the kingdom. When the king finally awoke, he felt delighted, and he hadn't felt that way since he was a lad. But something was bothering him that he just couldn't shake. Then, when he entered the throne room, he remembered. He wanted to reward Maya, but then he remembered all of the awful things he did to her, and that he has sent his best men to kill her. Trumpets sounded behind him, and he heard the royal announcer announcing someone. The announcer said, I present to you, your majesty, Maya and Lance. Out of all of the people he expected to see, he never expected Lance and Maya to visit him, much less holding hands. They both kneeled to him, and he said,
Please rise.
in his kingly voice,
I believe I have done you both very wrong, and I would like to say that I am sincerely sorry. If there is any favor I can give you, please speak.
They looked at each other, and then Lance said,
Well, there is one thing.
Today was probably the best day of my life. I was getting married to Lance. A few days after Lance asked the king if we could marry at the palace, he granted lordship to him. The wedding is today, and I have the most beautiful dress on. The wedding will begin in moments. King William was in the chapel at the church preparing to wed the new couple. He had insisted. He was happy for them, and he was glad that they loved each other. In the middle of his thought, he heard the door open, and then he turned to see that it was Lance. Lance walked to him and smiled.
I'm glad you're back, my friend.